Hi, welcome to Joanna's DIY Life. I am so glad you're here on this Sew It Saturday. So what we're going to be doing today, I'm just going to jump right into it. It's a short little video, but I am going to show you some tips and tricks along the way of things that I, do to make my life easier. But these little things, I seen these when I was scrolling through Pinterest, and I thought, it's one of those things you never know you need it in your life until you see one. And I'll tell you why that I need this in my life. Because right here, I have all kinds of needles in there, and I don't even remember what needle is what. And with this, if you're changing your projects, and changing your fabrics, you have to change your needles to your fabrics. So sometimes you'll take one out, and this will give you a place to put it so you remember what it is, because sometimes it's hard to see those numbers on that shaft of that needle, so this will help you. Let's go. Okay, there are several ways to do this. This right here is vinyl, and I done a vinyl one because I know that it will work. And the vinyl I used is a matte vinyl. I'm pretty sure it's Caesar Easy Weed matte vinyl, but anyways, this is one of my favorite vinyls to use. And I also printed it on fabric through my printer. This can be done. As you can see, if it gets wet, it smudges, and this is even after a light coat of polyacrylic. The polyacrylic made it a little blurry, which is just an acrylic spray that you can spray on there. Hairspray will also make it where it won't, but if you have a laser printer, that would work a whole lot better. But all you do with this is take Reynolds freezer paper, and I cut it out to the size that I need. This is the one I already used, and then I'll take my fabric and I put my paper on my fabric and I iron it down, and then I trim around the paper. You don't want no moisture in your iron, or no in the paper. I iron the fabric first before I put it on here, and take my steam off. You want to dry iron, and then when you run it through your printer, mine would run through fabric down and it comes up this way. But you don't want any other paper in your inkjet printer or your laser printer. You want this one only. Make sure all your edges are sealed down before you run it through the printer. And then when you run this through the printer, it prints and it comes out just like your paper, and then you peel it from your wax paper and you are done. I don't recommend that method, but you can do that method. You can also do a sublimation print. I print on A-sub paper, and you can do sublimation and then put it on your square as well. I'm going to show you in case you do not have any of this stuff, okay? So this is a craft fabric fat quarter from Crafter Square, and this is white, and this just happens to be 100% polyester, okay? So this can be subbed on, just so you know. You can also sub on a Mainstays white sheet. Check and make sure, but Mainstays is polyester. 100% polyester. Now be careful when you're doing them, and make sure you cover all of your fabric because it will melt. But in case you don't have this, this is your initial pattern, and this is done in a PDF. But if you drag this over to your silhouette, my silhouette I have business edition, and it will cut it out automatically. I don't know if the Cricut does that because I only have a Cricut Joy, and this wouldn't work on a Cricut Joy. So, but this is in a PDF file too, and all you're going to do is take your fabric, and you want to make sure you can see through your fabric, okay? You want to make sure you can see through that. And I'm just going to take some simple Scotch tape and run along this edge so that I know this does not move. Now, this is just a cut line, but we're not even going to do that, okay? We don't have to worry about that cut line. But you want to make sure your fabric is down where it will not move. Now you can use a pencil. I don't recommend because you need to see through your fabric. You can use a Sharpie. That works, but if you don't sew past your line, you're going to see it. What I am going to use is a Frixion pen if it will work. The last time I tried to use it, it would not work. But what you want to do is you just want to, now this is just for this line, okay? And this is a heat pen, so when it gets hot, it will come off, so I can shoot it with the steam from my iron, and you won't even see this here. Okay? But this is the line where we have to sew, and this has to be visible on both the front and the back of your fabric. Mainly the back. It has to soak through is what I'm saying. Of course you're going to see it from the front you're drawing, but it needs to soak through your fabric because that's your line to sew on, okay? And you're going to have to see that. So we just want to make sure we got that real good. Now, on these lines, to make sure I get them straight, you do want to use a Sharpie because you don't want this to go anywhere. So I'm just going to trace my line. And I'm going to do this, and you have to be quick for bleeding purposes, okay? I don't know if you just saw what I done. See, it'll bleed. But I'm just going to go through, and if you can draw straight, go for it. I'm not that straight, and it would just make me go slower. So I use my ruler here. So I'm just going to do this and trace out all of my lines. Now that my lines are down, and you really have to go fast, I can't stress that enough. Now you just want to write your numbers and your needles in. If I even use that. You don't have to, you could put your own needle preference if you do this method, okay? But there is my sheet. My transfer. Y'all get what I'm doing here, okay? Alright, now what we're going to do is I'm just going to fold mine over because it's convenient for me. I knew I had another piece of tape somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this over. Make sure you have room. And I'm going to pin it down. But when you pin it on the inside. Make sure you're away from that and pin it on all 4 sides, because we're going to stitch along this line and then cut it out, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second. Let me get all pinned down. Anyway, I'm just going to fussy cut this thing out because I don't want to drag all this fabric over to my machine, and I'm going to cut this so that it's not sticking up and that it will lay flat. Okay, now I'm going to go over to my machine, and I'm doing this with a pencil. I'm going to leave a space open for turning. Okay, so I'll start here, go around, follow this line all the way around, and stop right here and leave this open. Now as you can see, I have my stitches all the way around. I have my opening. I'm going to remove my pins, and I am going to make sure you do not cut your stitches, okay people? Make sure you don't cut your stitches. But I'm just going to snip or cut around this. You know, one thing about this is it doesn't have to be perfect. You're not going to be wearing it. I'm I mean, if you're a perfectionist, you'll want it perfect, but I mean, you do you, boo. You know what I'm saying? Now here you want to leave it a little bit longer because you're going to have a space to sew in there, okay? So, let's get all this junk out of the way. All right. Now we're just going to take it and flip it the right way. Make sure you leave a big enough hole down there to flip it, okay? Because, I mean, you don't want so much because you're going to have to hand sew it if you don't glue it. Turn your corners out, okay? And now you see my black line from my Frixon marker? It's there. So I'm just going to go hit it with some steam on my iron and get rid of that. So here we are. You're going to need stuffing. One trick to getting stuffing in a tight hole is to take a pencil eraser and push while you're twisting. It seems like it takes forever, but it does not. This is the easiest way I have found to get this in. Y'all don't even have to clip your corners on this either. But once you get this started with the pencil, and it doesn't look like I'm doing anything, but I promise, look, it's going in there, okay? Once you get that far, then you can just push it in with your finger. But getting it started with my finger, it doesn't always work. And I sometimes just roll it right on in there. But you don't want to let it disconnect because then you'll have to start again with the pencil. So I know I'm right here. Just grab another piece and start shoving it in with that one. It ensures my, my opening is still open. And then you just keep on stuffing. Now you want to maneuver it around. Make sure you're poking in your corners here. Okay? We want this kind of firm. Sheesh, I don't know why that does that. It's like a magic pencil trick. I don't know. It helps me. You might not can get it, but it helps me tremendously. If you go to the Schmidt's website, you just type in Schmidt's needles, okay? And when you type in Schmidt's needles, you'll find a web page on Google. Now I use Google. I don't know about Safari or anything else, or Bing or whatever, but I use Google and I Google Schmidt's needles, and this will come up and you can download it as a PDF and print it any size you want to. Also, it has some information other than just this, and what this is a guide, and it tells you have colors on your needle. It'll point to the top. It's very self-explanatory. You got your stretch, your jersey, your jeans. That's what this color means. And this color is the size of your needle. So that helps if you have this paper, because I've had some that I couldn't see the size thing on there. So because I couldn't see the size, I looked at the color in this color chart that I downloaded. Oh, I'm so sorry about that, y'all. But anyway, all of the, Lord, that thing did that and I don't know what I was saying. Just forget it. Oh, I've looked at this color chart to find out what needle I had. Now, if you have organ needles or some needles that don't have colors, this does you absolutely no good. But I totally love Schmidt's needles. I am so sorry, y'all. I did not put my phone on silent. I apologize. We all make mistakes, don't we? We live and learn. But you know what? I'll probably make that mistake again. The one time you don't want that to happen is while you're in church, let me tell you, because it draws attention and people think it better be Jesus calling, because nobody else should be. But anyway, I'm stuffing mine firm because I don't want my needle to go through. But you don't want it balling up to where you can't see your little doodads here, numbers. See? So anyway, now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to take this needle and I'm going to go in. I think this is called a ladder stitch. I'm not sure, but I just go in one side through the, I go in one side through the inside and the other side through the inside, and then keep doing that all the way up and tug slightly until I close up my hole here. You can do it just a simple whip stitch where you just go in and out and in and out and in and out. I mean, if that's if that's what you want to do, you can also take hot glue or fabric glue. Fabric tack will work, and glue your hole shut. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull out after I knotted it. That way it's not, you know, noticeable there. Pull a little bit and then you have no thread showing. Here you are. So now when I have this and I'm taking my needles out of my machine, but this is just a regular 12. So you go under the 12 and you push it in universal. This one is an embroidery 11. So I go to the 11 and I stick it in the 11. This is so easy to keep up with your needles and don't have to be all in that and everything else. So I love these little things. You can take and put an elastic strap on there and you can wrap it around your machine if your machine allows you to do that. If you have a throat on there, you can place it on your machine. You can use Velcro to place it on your machine. There's that iron, never fails, does it? I got one for each machine, and this is how I choose to store my needles, okay? This is the thing, I got it at Walmart, it's double-sided, and I put a little label in there and labeled each one of my needles and what they're for. And then these over here say ballpoint. So these are my ballpoint and stretch and specialty needles. These are just my normal needles and their sizes. And I actually like this because all these cases were everywhere. I'll have another storage solution for these cases that we can do in an upcoming video. So stay tuned for that one. But anyways, if you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel and ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. And with all that being said, you are a blessing. Goodbye.